Waterfall, the CCW podcast.
Hello and welcome to Waterfall. It's the water saving podcast from CCW. That's the Consumer Council for Water. Waterfall is all about saving water, saving money, protecting the environment and combating climate change. I'm Mike. I'm here with Karen. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Mike.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Nice to see you. And of course, he's here looking at the perkin. It's Tom, producer Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hi, everyone. I'm in a brightly lit room, I should say. There's no shadows here. I'm on display.
You are fully on display. Let's leave that there. Unbelievably, this is our 50th episode. Who'd have thought we'd have got to this milestone?
It's unbelievable. I mean, this time last year, we're recording this on the 21st of September 2023. We just released number 7, Keeping the Kitchen Watertight, which I know is a personal favourite of mine.
It is. Don't start me on that. That's a lovely episode if you want to check it out.
So 43 episodes later we are now.
Wow, but given we had an initial idea of a run of 6, getting to 50 yes. and a third series is really impressive. Has it aged you, Karen?
Well, I'm just slightly disappointed but once again for this episode, I've missed out on a possible field trip.
Yes, no, we do have this is great. This is just coincidence that this is our 50th episode, and we have a really, really fantastic episode because I get to go out and about, and I went to Norfolk to the Norfolk Broads to be hosted by the RSPB. And they were showing me around some of their sites, and they introduced me to a couple called Tim and Geli Harris. And Tim and Geli have taken it on themselves as citizens to challenge some of the decisions made around water management because the Broads and the Fens were being damaged. So they've got a fabulous story to tell. I don't want to go into details now because just listen to it. So they showed me around. I got soaking wet feet, and it was just wonderful people to meet, so enthusiastic. So stay listening. Now, before we get into that, we just want to remind listeners that you can get in touch with the show.
Yes, you can email us using podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
And of course, you can find us on social media. Just search for Waterfall Podcast and you'll find us. And listeners have been in touch. A regular listener, Dave's been in touch on the back of the live show we did last week. Karen and Tom, just want to ask you, have you recovered from the trauma of the live show?
Well, I think I should say that I'm just very grateful that Tom did his usual very clever editing, and it made us sound a lot more professional than it felt on the day.
It's a good episode.
It is a very good episode. I'm very happy with it. You know, unfortunately we had to cut a few things out, like Kath doing this big dance number, but maybe the archives will open in a year or so and we'll release that.
Well, you never know. Waterfall, the hidden files might come to light at some point. Yeah. But we had wonderful guests, and do check that out. And it was great to do it, and scary to do it in front of an audience. They were a very kind audience to us, so well worth a listen. But Dave has been in touch, listener Dave, and he played along with the quiz. So there was a Water Genius quiz,
of course.
and Dave was quite pleased to tell us he got 4 out of 5, but got the banana question wrong. Man, that tripped up a lot. It was a potential banana skin.
Yeah. People were split on the question.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. But I think getting 4 out of 5, that's a better score than our guest got. So I think that technically qualifies Dave as being one of the deputy chief inspectors of the DWI, or possibly running an NGO. So Dave, the world is your oyster. Well done. Keep listening. So I think it's probably time to move on. Let's get into the meat of today's episode because, as we say, really great to first of all meet Ian Robinson for the RSPB, and that's where we'll start. So let's just bring on the guests.
Enjoying the show? Please consider leaving a 5-star rating on iTunes and Spotify.
Here I am, out and about. It's super exciting to be here in the Norfolk Broads. We're at Sutton Fen, and my host for today is Ian Robinson from RSPB. Hello, Ian.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for hosting me. So we are. It's a bit of a cliche. We're literally leaning on a gate. I feel like we should be like sucking on bits of straw.
There's no cows in front of us, so we're all right.
Oh, that's true. So we're Sutton Fen Nature Reserve. This is a RSPB Nature Reserve, right?
It was the RSPB's 200th Nature Reserve, so a little bit of an accolade there. Bought back in 2006, 2007. And we bought it because it's pristine fen. It's the best of the fen in Western Europe, and also in the Ant Valley. It's unparalleled.
So for the people like me, what is a fen?
So if you look at the view you got in front of us, there's low vegetation, which is a rush species, and then there's the vegetation beyond, which is reed. A lot of people get confused. They think reed beds are fen. They're not. Fen is species rich, very high botanical, high entomological value places, habitats which are wet on peat soils, and it generally, certainly in the Broads, it's calcareously fed water, so spring waters and things like that. Reed beds, which is the anomaly, people see that and they think it's fen, they're a monoculture. They are just reed, whereas fen can have anything up to 50, 60 species in a 2x2 metre quadrat.
So it's high value wetland habitat. Is that a fair description?
It's a pretty niche habitat, and 75% of the UK lowland calcareous fen resource is found in the Broads.
Wow, so we're at a very special and quite a rare place. So is this a protected area then?
It is. It's got every accolade under the sun apart from it's just outside of the National Nature Reserve, but Ramsar, SPA, SSI, SAC, you name it, it's got it.
Wow, so that's a load of badges that basically say this is special.
Yeah, and when we bought the site, we thought it's interesting to listen to people. They thought that the place was going to deteriorate. It did exactly the opposite because of the management that we put in.
So we're here not just to lead on a gate, whilst this is fun, and actually we could probably just chat nonsense all afternoon because it's such a lovely spot. But you brought me down here to meet Tim and Geli Harris, who are campaigners.
Yeah, they're campaigners for the water resource. They do things, we do things, and those two things together make a much more powerful end product. So yeah, that's why we've got that association with them.
So this is a topic where their objectives and your objectives align.
Yeah, we started off looking at the abstraction issues locally, which was a major issue, and these are abstraction rights for both agriculture and public water supply. So it's not just us bashing farmers. We don't do that because we want to see everybody succeed, but it was being counterproductive to where the site's being managed. And we started on that run, and we've just gone from strength to strength.
So I'm here on this absolutely glorious day at Catfield Hall Estate, and I'm here with Tim Harris. This is your house, isn't it?
Yeah, this is where my wife and I have lived for the last 30 years. We've been very lucky in that we happen to own a large part of Catfield Fen, which is described as the finest unpolluted valley fen in Western Europe. So we've been very lucky in that we do that. We have about, I suppose, between 450 and 500 acres altogether here in the Broads.
I'm very excited about going on this thing, by the way. I don't even know how to describe it. What is this?
It's a gator. It's a sort of cross-country thing, a poor man's tractor. But it gets you around quickly and well, and it doesn't tip over. So,
do we have to wear helmets?
No.
Well, that's a good sign.
No. Nor seatbelts. No, it's very good. But if you climb in, we'll drive down to Fen.
So we're at a beautiful spot. We get a very good vista of a variety of countryside and what looks like trees and something in between. So tell me in a much more educated way what we're looking at.
Well, we're looking due west, and we're looking towards the Ant Valley, across the Ant Valley. In the distance, you can see the trees. That's where the River Ant is, and you might see a sail going past because of one of the boats on the river. About 3/4 of a mile to our right up there is Barton Broad. That's where Nelson learned to sail, right? But if we look more closely, you can see the line just about, I suppose, 300 metres from here, which is the beginning of the marsh. You can tell the difference between the upland here, which is used for grazing cattle, and the marsh itself with reeds and all the other varieties.
You can see it's quite a clear change.
Absolutely. With global warming, this may become a seaside villa, because if all is flooded, that's where the sea would end up.
Are we below sea level here? Or
no,
down there?
No, we're not. But it's quite close. Do you see that mill there?
Yep.
There's a mill, looks a bit like a Martello tower, but that was built in the Napoleonic era, and its objective was to pump the water from the marsh. They wanted to turn it into a grazing marsh, like the Halvergate marshes. Fortunately, nature beat the steam engine because it failed, and it's now just a very nice architectural ruin, protected ruin. And the marsh is still here. This is described in its official designation as the finest unpolluted valley fen in Western Europe. And that's what you're looking at. And it runs for about, I I suppose, a mile in that direction, down there, another mile to How Hill, which is used as a centre of education for kids from coming up from London and other places. So we're very lucky to live here. My wife and I have lived here now for 30 years.
What a spot. I'm just jealous. So we've got off our gaiter. That's the right word, isn't it? Yep. And we're now on foot, and we're heading into, we've got the reeds around us.
This is sort of rough reed, yeah, that's right. We're going down to our own little broad, which is about 5 acres of water. It's called Catfield Broad. The Broads originated from peat diggings. Most of them in medieval times, they dug the peat out like in Ireland for burning, and then the water came in and filled them up, and that's what created the Broads, this unique system of wetlands. This is, I believe, 80% of Britain's top wetlands are here in the Broads. 25% of the most protected species are just in this particular area in the United Kingdom. 25%.
That is incredible. So the channels that are the Broads were made from people cutting out the peat.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Here, if you look at it, there are a lot of rivers. But and originally the road system was not great, but they travelled by river. But the fuel that they used was they dug the peat out, and then subsequently the peat diggings flooded, and that created a unique wetland environment, which, as I said, is the unique in the United Kingdom. That's how it started, and I think that was only realised probably 40, 50 years ago, that this goes all the way back to the Middle Ages.
So we've got a unique natural habitat that is essentially man-made.
Yes, absolutely. Like most of the British countryside, it is man-made. And you can't just say nature, leave it, do nothing. The biggest danger to wetlands is they scrub up. And if we did nothing, our number one task, the most important task in managing this, is to keep the scrub out of the marshes. Now, unfortunately...
So, sorry to interrupt, but just to scrub up, what do you mean by that?
Alders. Trees coming, afforestation with alders. I'll show you an alder kind of a minute. That looks a bit like it. It means that the unique system of reeds and other plants is replaced by alder trees and other trees, like here. We're looking across the Broad now. And just yesterday we had the Fern Society of Great Britain turned up here with about, 20 people, and had a wonderful day out, because here it's the best site for the crested buckler fern in the United Kingdom. And we have next, in another week's time, we have another equivalent society, the fungi group, are coming as well.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Well, they do. I mean, we've had the invertebrates. In some ways, this is one of the top invertebrate sites in the United Kingdom. We have our own particular species of butterfly. This is one of the few sites in the United Kingdom you can see swallowtail butterflies here. Unfortunately, not this time of year. We had not a bad year, about June, beginning of June. And they live off a particular plant, milk parsley, which you see if you look here, you've got a diet. That's a healthy diet. Do you see that?
Yep.
So
you've got all these little willy pads here.
Yeah, and this is water soldiers.
Yep.
Yeah, you pay £3 each if you go to the garden centre for them. You see, it's been a wet year. You can see this from the grass.
Yeah, it's certainly looking very healthy.
Yes, well, it is. Unfortunately, if you look at the challenges this fen has faced, it has come to water, because the key issue in a wetland is, unsurprisingly, water supply. That's what it's all really about. And about 20 years ago, there was a special study being done of our site by the Norfolk and Norwich naturalists, and they came to my wife and I and said, we're very concerned because we think the fen's drying out. To cut a long story short, we then talked with the relevant bodies, that's Natural England, the Environment Agency and the Broads Authority, and after a long and tedious exercise, which I won't bore you with, there was a public inquiry in 2016 which agreed there was a real problem. And what it consisted of was, this is a calcareous fen, which is very, very unusual. That's why most fens are acid, like in Ireland, bogs. Bogs are acid. This is calcareous, and that means that you have a completely different sort of plant. For example, the milk parsley, from which the swallowtail butterfly thrives. And what was happening is that water abstraction, both for the public water supply, which there was one about 2 miles away in that direction, and farming, which was all around here, was abstracting the groundwater. This meant that it reduced the flow of calcareous groundwater, that is alkaline groundwater, coming to the surface of the marsh. And the consequence of that is that acid rain is acid, as we now all know, managed to get further into the ground, and it led to an acidification of the fen and a reduction in the water, but acidification.
So the rain was beating the groundwater, so to speak.
Yes, because the groundwater had one arm up its back.
Yep,
because it was being
of abstraction.
Well, it took us 8 years to get that approved, and thanks to an intervention of a top Dutch scientist, this was then recognised at a public inquiry in Norwich in 2016, which took 3.5 weeks, and found conclusively in favour of that. Therefore, the public water supply has been changed to somewhere else now. It's being piped in from Norwich, where I suspect there may be similar circuit problems. And also the local farming abstractions have been curtailed. So that's where we were in 2016.
What would you like Waterfall to cover next? Send your water-saving topics to podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
Can I ask you a couple of questions just on this? What you had experts in to confirm that the fen was being damaged, right? Had you noticed that yourselves before the experts confirmed this?
We had noticed the fen had got drier, but neither my wife or I we now know what to look for, and we were concerned. But it was the Norfolk and Norwich naturalists who said, we are seriously concerned about this, and they're people who knew what they were talking about. We then got in some top hydrologists and ecologists, and they confirmed it. And the Dutch professor came in and said, I've seen this before in Holland and elsewhere, and the reason is you change the balance of the water between alkaline and acid, and that's what's causing the problem. Unfortunately, and this is a sad thing, none of the public bodies really, why this had to be done by ourselves is an interesting question.
Who did you take to a public inquiry?
Well, we have taken legal action. We threatened the Environment Agency with legal action, and we gave them 7-day notice of it, and they then cancelled the licences. That was then appealed by the NFU to protect the agricultural licences, but they lost the appeal, and the case became a landmark ruling within the whole of water abstraction in this country. It's now a landmark decision because it demonstrated the link between water abstraction and damage to wetlands. Confirmed it. There was a subsequent follow-up in that the EA then looked at all of the sites in the Ant Valley, our little valley here. And guess what? They found problems, equivalent problems, all the way up the valley. So they've then done a detailed program called Restoring Sustainable Abstraction. It then decided that a larger number of licenses needed to be revoked. It demonstrated that the problems we'd found here first in Catfield were all up the Ant Valley. But we then said, if you found all these problems in Catfield, because we happen to live here and we happen to live in the Ant Valley, what about the other river systems, 5 other river systems in the Broads? The EA said, and Natural England said, oh, not much we can do, no money, all the usual stuff. Anyway, we then thought that wasn't good enough, really, so we raised a judicial review of that decision, because we said, if you've done this in the Ant Valley because we happen to live here, shouldn't you be looking at the other river systems?
So essentially you're saying if you've come to one conclusion here, what is the logic behind you not applying the same principles to the other rivers
in the
neighbourhood?
You could apply it throughout the United Kingdom if you wanted to. Anyway, most judicial reviews fail. But ours went to court, and we had a very discerning judge who listened very carefully to the evidence, and he found that our case was not only in breach of European laws, because there's always a risk they'll appeal the European environmental laws, but also against the common law, i.e. against the law of the land. He basically said, you're in breach of your basic duty to look after the environment, and you now need to expend your programme to a whole of the Broads area, which is what's now going on. So we won the judicial review to extend it to the whole of the Broads special area of conservation, which again is another landmark decision. It was also a landmark decision for going that way because it demonstrated that the European conservation laws, which are, in my view, very good laws, sensible, still apply. And it would be a very retrograde step if they appealed them, because, easy to appeal things without knowing their consequences.
Oh, absolutely. So this is really, when you say we, this is you and your wife, right, who've done this action?
Yeah.
Was it just you two alone, or did you have help?
Oh no, we had enormous specialist help from. We have some of the top scientists, but I've been lucky in life. We've been lucky, so I had the money to do this, and we've spent up to £1 million doing all of this.
Wow.
Yeah. And
of your own cash?
Yes, but I've been lucky in life, so I'm not complaining. We have a duty. We own this site. And I think it's a public duty to do it, and that's why we've done it. And if we can do something that keeps the Broadlands unique ecological system going for another 100 years, we will have done something for future generations, and that's why we've done it.
Oh, fantastic! I mean,
better than having a house in Malibu.
Well, it really exemplifies how citizens can make a difference.
Because the sad thing is, I'm going to show you this sphagnum moss we heard about. Here, this is sphagnum moss. That is an acid plant, acid loving, and that creates its own acid. So not only does it come because the groundwater, acidic groundwater, is getting deep in the ground, it makes its own acid. It's like a little acid factory, and so it goes on and on and on producing it. That's the problem.
And does this become the dominant plant?
Well, as you can see, look around you. You can see we shouldn't bounce up and down. We're like on a trampoline. That's not right.
So you're creating an unvirtuous cycle here, because if it's becoming more acidic and then you're getting more of the moss, which creates more acids, then you are in a spiral.
That's what the 2016 inquiry demonstrated. And our Dutch colleague was the first guy. It took him a morning. You would have thought our own bodies could have worked out in 4 or 5 years. It took our Dutch specialist one morning to do that. And he said, I've seen this before. This is what's happening.
Incredible. And so RSPB on a site next door to yours.
Just there.
And so have you been working with them on your campaigning?
Yeah, we have. We are good neighbours to the RSPB. We very much respect them. They're a very professional outfit, I have to say. They work in a different way to us because, we don't have layers. They do. But when we had our Dutch specialist here, we invited our local RSPB manager across, and he sat with this Dutch expert, who unfortunately subsequently died, Dr. Berendrecht, and he listened, and he went back, looked at his own site, and he came back and said, actually, my site's worse, which was demonstrated in the public inquiry. And he gave a very strong performance at the public inquiry and came across as a very good witness, saying we have these problems.
So you want a battle, which is a brilliant story of citizens taking direct action. Are you happy now? Then is it sorted? Is it fixed?
Nothing is ever sorted completely, but we did. What I would say is the issue of abstraction and the damage it can do to the natural environment is now on the public agenda and is being paid attention to. Whether enough's being done about it, that's a different issue. But we managed to get it extended to the whole of the Broads Special Area of Conservation. So that's a plus. It has applications throughout the United Kingdom.
Given your story, I'm amazed that more people haven't heard of what you and Geli have been doing.
Well, to be fair, if I go through who I think were the heroes of archive, I think the press, I have a good respect for the press. We've had excellent coverage in the local press, and the national press has covered us very well as well. The Guardian and the Times. Times did excellent efforts. We've also had the BBC here. So the media, I think, has fulfilled its role really well. I'm more concerned in the public bodies themselves, in that why haven't they been taking a stronger line? Now, the RSPB, I have a good respect for, because the RSPB fights its corner extremely well and has a lobbying capacity which we as private individuals don't have. They really do. And they are, if you look at what they say about proposals to get rid of the environmental protection laws from Europe, they've been very strong on the subject, and rightly.
Getting the gator, so again, I'm very excited. I'm sad to leave because I've enjoyed our wander around. It's been absolutely fascinating. There's nothing better than actually having to walk around and seeing things in the flesh, so to speak. But I would just like to point out that you can spot the amateur, me, and the professional, you, Tim, because you've got wellies on. We've just been walking around a marsh. There's a clue, and my feet are
We could have lent you some boots.
Oh, you tell me now afterwards.
I'm sorry about that. We should have thought about shows. My wife will take me off when I get home.
So, Tim, we're walking back to your house. We've safely got out of the gator. Although I want another shot. I want to drive it. We have a question that we ask all our guests, which we haven't primed you for. So let's get your actual reaction. Do you know your personal water use?
Not the slightest idea.
Ah.
Well, you see, there is a problem there. You're asking me two things. Are you talking about my farm water use or how much you use in the house?
In the house, your per capita consumption, as it's known in the technical term. We have a league table of all our guests, you see.
You're like Clarkson on...
That's exactly what it is. It's a very popular feature, by the way.
Yeah, I bet it is. So was Clarkson. I wouldn't know, actually. I wouldn't know. And remember, we have a big home.
Oh, but that's no excuse. That puts you bottom of the league, I'm afraid.
Well, yeah. Right? You bowl me out. You bowl me out.
Do I have to take my soggy shoes off?
No, you don't.
Thank you. It's been brilliant, by the way. Thank you so much.
No, it's been fun.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And you know what? I would love any excuses to come back.
Well, you can.
So we've had a wonderful time with Tim and Geli. They were brilliant hosts. It was great to see around our land, understand the challenges, and a rather nice lunch as well.
Yeah, it was splendid, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it really was. Those pies were fantastic. I think I could probably do a separate podcast series on
the pie podcast.
Yeah, the pie podcast. Yeah,
There you go.
that would be awesome. Thank you. That's your gift to me. Another one. But it was fascinating stuff, and a real kind of example of how citizens can.
Yeah.
Campaign.
I think the interesting thing is that everybody's got a part to play in this, and that includes people who use water, be it people at home or people in the agricultural sector, businesses, whoever. And I think there's a disconnect between what people understand about water use and how it impacts on the natural environment. 75%, according to the Broads Authority's studies, of the people who come to the Broads come because of the wildlife, the nature and the landscape. You know, that's their key driver. And perhaps what they don't understand, if they don't use water wisely, both in terms of the volume that they use and what they flush down the plug hole, will impact on these pristine habitats, which makes it harder and harder for us passionate sort of conservationists to keep the whole thing ticking over and in a positive direction. So I think a little bit of research by people about how much water they use, if they can be a little bit more wiser and work towards that target of 110 litres per person per day, which is what the water company is asking for. I always use the stat that they have in Denmark, where it's 80 litres per person per day, which is a much better measure. It shows we're taking a respectful attitude towards the land and appreciating why we're here and what we've got in front of us.
No, a really strong point that what we do with water in the home absolutely matters. It matters to nature, it matters to these pristine habitats. So really great lesson there. Now, I do have to ask you though, like we ask all our guests, do you know your own personal water use?
I don't know it in terms of cubic metres or whatever measure or litres per hour, but it is quite low. Obviously, I'd be sort of a bit two-faced if I was saying you need to be more careful with your water resource, and I was just blatantly washing it down the plug hole. But I'm very mindful of it because I understand the implications and the repercussions if you don't use it wisely, and they are. Climate change is going to have an impact. Water's going to become more expensive. Crops are going to be harder to grow, and what you took as a sort of God-given right as a sort of a relatively free resource will disappear. So we have to take care of it now and into the future, just like everything else.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you so much for being a wonderful host today. Thank you for introducing me to Tim and Geli. I've had a wonderful day, and thank you for arranging the weather. I mean, awesome work.
Well, no pressure.
Wow. So there you have it. My wonderful sunny day in Norfolk, meeting some brilliant, motivated people. Karen, what do you make of all that then?
The one thing it really brought home to me was how the water needs of people, so the public water supply, and in agriculture, so food production, and the natural environment and nature are so finely balanced. I think really that, as Ian said, we all have to recognise that there is that bigger picture, and we all have a responsibility, therefore, to recognise that, we have a part to play. And, we can do that by valuing the water services that we get and using them wisely.
Yeah, and it really hits it home when you're standing there, as Ian and I were standing at this gate, right, looking at this wonderful landscape, a really unique habitat. Really hits it home that that's what's at stake if water is mismanaged. And as you say, Karen, you're spot on. It's not just down to one group. It's agriculture, it's people, it's those choices people made. It was also, what did you make of Tim in particular and what he took on himself to do?
I thought it was really impressive that as a landowner, he has taken on the responsibility to be a good custodian of the landscape and the environment that he feels he's responsible for. And the power that's had in influencing positive change. All due respect to them for pursuing that to a really positive outcome.
Yeah, and it was clear that Tim and Geli totally got that big picture. That this wasn't about just the here and now. It was about the next generation and future generations. And that really came across meeting them. Obviously, and Tim was very open about this. They had the means to be able to challenge, because obviously it costs if you're going to do a judicial review. Yeah. But what struck me is you still have to make that choice, right? You still have to choose to spend your money that way. And then he made that comment himself, didn't he? He could have had I think he said he could have had a house in Malibu, but he chose to do this instead. And good on him, Karen. Yeah, no,
I totally agree. Also, I was really encouraged by the fact that RSPB and other organisations are now working with them in a much more constructive way as well. So, it's been a really good outcome for all concerned, I think.
Yeah, no, brilliant point to make, actually, Karen, because you can see that the RSPB are really trying to look at how to get things done and how to work with others in order to get change to secure a better environment. And again, they've got that big picture that we all have this part to play. And obviously, RSPB is a big membership organisation, can influence people and can play a really important role to help people understand that actually what you do at the tap matters to what happens on a fen in Norfolk. Now, we're all nodding, which probably doesn't go down too well on a podcast. I don't usually leave you lost for words. I'm usually quick to have a comeback. But it was fantastic, and it just shows that citizens can make a difference. And I think that was like that to encourage everyone that we can all make a difference, big and small, in many different ways to help have a more sort of sustainable, secure future. We're pretty much out of time, unfortunately, for this one, though. So don't forget, you can get in touch with Waterfall.
Yes, you can email us on podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
And don't forget to check us out on the socials. Just search on Waterfall Podcast. We've got some pictures actually from.
Yes, we've got lots of stuff that we're going to put on the Instagram. So check that out.
That would be awesome. Brilliant. So I think it's just a goodbye from me, Mike.
Goodbye from me, Karen.
And goodbye from me, producer Tom.